Canadian trade talks stall as the government shutdown persists. A suspected gang member puts out a public hit on the head of Border Patrol. And a new report suggests Ozempic may interfere with cancer detection. I'm Georgia Howe. John's out this week. It's Wednesday, October 8th, and this is Evening Wire. Israel and the terror group Hamas may soon reach an agreement to end the war in Gaza. Secretary of State Marco Rubio interrupted the president at a roundtable this afternoon to deliver a message.
I was just given a note by the Secretary of State saying that we're very close to a deal in the Middle East, and they're going to need me pretty quickly.
This is a developing story. Check out dailywire.com for updates. Hundreds of anti-Israel protesters marched through New York City on Tuesday on the anniversary of Hamas's October 7th attack on Israel. 2 years ago, the October 7th attack became the deadliest day for Jews since the Holocaust. According to the New York Post, protesters waved Palestinian flags and chanted, "From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free." Many expressed support for Hamas, chanting, quote, "It is right to resist. Israel does not exist." The display came as negotiators from Israel and Hamas meet in Egypt to discuss the U.S.-backed peace framework that has received widespread support across the Middle East. It's day 8 of the shutdown as the government limps deeper into the crisis with no deal in sight. And Congress isn't the only place where negotiations have stalled. Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney visited the White House yesterday for trade talks and left without any new agreements. Despite the stalemate, the president expressed warmth and optimism for Carney and the relationship between Canada and the U.S. Here's President Trump on working out a deal with the Prime Minister.
He's a good man. He does a great job, and he's a tough negotiator.
So then what's holding things up? If he's a great man and you want to do a deal with Canada, why aren't you?
Because I want to be a great man, too.
Trump also worked in a jab at Carney about making Canada the 51st state.
And now, and I'm running out of time, but this is, in many respects, the most important.
The
what
merger
you created
of Canada
no,
and the
what
United States.
The ongoing government shutdown is putting strain on the Federal Aviation Administration, causing severe air traffic controller shortages and widespread flight delays and cancellations. Since the shutdown began October 1st, controllers have worked a week without pay, prompting many to call out sick, forcing flight disruptions nationwide. On Tuesday, Nashville International Airport was the second air traffic control tower to go dark, following significant delays at Burbank Airport in California on Monday. Governor Gavin Newsom criticized President Trump on X, saying, "Burbank Airport has 0 air traffic controllers from 4:15 p.m. to 10 p.m. today because of your government shutdown." Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy pushed back, saying that Republicans are not to blame. Quote, "Democrats prioritize things like free health care to illegal immigrants over making sure our hardworking air traffic controllers at Burbank Airport get paid." Federal prosecutors have charged a suspected gang leader of offering cash for the death of a senior immigration officer. On Monday, authorities arrested Chicago resident Juan Espinoza Martinez, who prosecutors say is a member of the notorious gang the Latin Kings. An indictment filed by the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Northern District of Illinois says that Espinoza Martinez offered a financial reward over Snapchat for the death of Gregory Bovino, the commander at large for the U.S. Border Patrol. U.S. Attorney Andrew Bautos called the alleged scheme an attack on the rule of law. The charge against Espinoza Martinez comes as immigration officials have faced increased threats. The vast majority of Americans approve of President Trump's strikes on boats smuggling drugs from South America. Daily Wire reporter Amanda Prestigiacomo has the details.
A new poll from Harvard, Capps, and Harris shows that more than 70% of Americans are in support of Trump carrying out these lethal targeted strikes on drug smuggling boats in international waters. The approval is bipartisan, with support from 89% of Republicans, 67% of independents, and 56% of Democrats. Since September, the military has destroyed at least 4 boats operated by South American cartels and killed more than 20 drug traffickers. Just last week, Trump said that the military stopped a boat that was loaded with enough drugs to kill 25,000 to 50,000 people. Additionally, a leader of the notorious Sinaloa drug cartel recently admitted that Trump's actions on this issue have stifled its criminal operations.
The Palisades fire destroyed thousands of homes and tragically killed 12 people in Los Angeles earlier this year. And now authorities say they have the man responsible. Daily Wire reporter Zach Jewell has the details.
The Justice Department accused 29-year-old Jonathan Rinderknecht of deliberately sparking a fire on New Year's Day. a blaze that was initially put out but then rekindled by strong winds nearly a week later. Acting U.S. Attorney Bill Asaley announced the arrest and the charge at a press conference.
The complaint unsealed today charges the defendant with destruction of property by means of fire, a felony that carries a mandatory minimum 5-year federal prison sentence and is punishable by up to 20 years in federal prison.
Rinderknecht, an Uber driver, was in Pacific Palisades late New Year's Eve after working throughout the evening. He allegedly got out of his car and walked up a trail to a nearby hilltop where he recorded videos and listened to a rap song. The song he was listening to was accompanied by a music video that showed objects being set on fire. According to the criminal complaint, Rinderknecht then started the fire and fled the scene in his car. But after he saw fire trucks racing to the scene, he turned around to watch the firefighters and took videos on his iPhone. Rinderknecht made his first court appearance this afternoon.
American soybean farmers are facing a looming crisis as the ongoing trade war with China continues to disrupt exports. Chinese buyers, who typically purchase more than half of all U.S. soybean exports, have turned to alternative suppliers as Washington and Beijing clash over tariffs. With their main market effectively cut off, U.S. farmers are confronting steep revenue losses and a growing surplus of unsold soybeans. The resulting oversupply is driving prices down further, compounding financial pressures across the agricultural sector. President Trump is expected to meet this week with Secretary of Agriculture Brooke Rollins to discuss possible relief measures. In December, Congress approved a $10 billion package in aid for farmers, and the president is now seeking an additional $10 to $14 billion, potentially drawn from tariff revenues. In the meantime, producers are working to diversify exports by expanding into emerging markets, such as Vietnam and the Philippines. U.S. sanctions have made it nearly impossible to legally purchase oil from Iran, but a new Wall Street Journal report reveals how covert arrangements with China have allowed Tehran to evade restrictions. While direct cash transactions are banned, China has reportedly been importing Iranian oil in exchange for funding infrastructure projects in Iran. Using a network of shadow banking channels, Iranian oil reaches Chinese buyers, while state-backed banks and insurers in China route payments to contractors working on projects inside Iran. Since the Trump administration reimposed sanctions in 2018, Iran's oil exports have become almost entirely dependent on China. Both Iranian and Chinese officials have denied knowledge of the arrangement. Clips of CNN anchor Caitlin Collins praising Trump's media savvy made the rounds on social media this week. Here's Daily Wire reporter Tim Pierce.
Collins appeared on Jason Tartick's podcast, Trading Secrets, this week, and she talked about how, unlike past presidents, Trump has embraced the media. Here's some of that.
When you speak to reporters who covered President Obama, he almost never responded to shouted questions. It wasn't his thing. He didn't, he would have his moments with world leaders, and then you would leave the Oval. Trump kind of upended that when he came into the White House. And sometimes presidents are press averse. Trump embraced the media. I mean, he did it for decades as like this New York mogul.
Sure.
And so he just had a different approach to the press and always has, long before taking office. Most politicians are not very press savvy. It kind of depends on who it is. I think Trump always understood the value of a camera and a microphone.
Ozempic may interfere with cancer detection. That's according to new research presented this week at a European medical conference on nuclear medicine. Doctors from the UK company Alliance Medical Limited noted that patients taking Ozempic tended to have more hot spots on their PET scans, even in healthy tissue. PET scans utilize an injected radioactive substance called FDG, which travels through the bloodstream and is absorbed by cells. Cancer cells absorb the FDG at a faster rate than healthy cells, which makes them light up as hot spots on the scan. It's been proposed that Ozempic may cause a similar fast absorption effect in some cells. The researchers are recommending doctors take a detailed medical history from patients prior to PET scans, with the awareness that Ozempic could cause false alarms or even obscure real cancers. Canada's controversial euthanasia program is facing renewed scrutiny as the number of organ donations from euthanized patients continues to rise. The Medical Assistance in Dying or MAID program, introduced in 2016, initially applied only to terminally ill patients. However, its scope has since expanded to include those with chronic and non-terminal conditions, such as mental illness and severe depression. Critics argue the program has grown too quickly, with recent data suggesting that nearly 1 in 20 deaths in Canada now occurs through MAID. Canada's healthcare system has long faced criticism for extended wait times and resource shortages. issues that have also affected organ transplant recipients who reportedly wait an average of 4 times longer than their counterparts in the U.S. As organ donations from MAID patients becomes more common, ethicists and advocacy groups are voicing concern that the practice could create subtle pressures on patients or providers to pursue euthanasia as a source of transplantable organs. The controversy follows reports from Canadians experiencing mental health struggles or financial hardship who claim euthanasia was suggested to them by healthcare professionals. Johnson & Johnson has been slapped with the largest penalty yet for damages stemming from talc in their products. They have been ordered to pay almost $1 billion to the family of a woman whose death was linked to ongoing exposure to asbestos fibers. May Moore died at the age of 88 of mesothelioma, the cause of which was traced to talc in the Johnson & Johnson baby powder she used. She is one of 67,000 plaintiffs who say their cancer was caused by that product prior to its reformulation in 2020. The vast majority of the cancers are ovarian. Johnson & Johnson tried to settle the issue via bankruptcy, but that has been rejected multiple times by federal courts. And an entrepreneur is under arrest for possessing stolen Nike merchandise. Daily Wire assistant editor Andy Valdez has more on the story.
Adil Shams, the founder of sneaker resale company Cool Kicks, was arrested last Thursday. LA police executed a search warrant at his company's warehouse and found an estimated $500,000 worth of stolen Nike goods, including unreleased shoes and clothing. Shams was arrested at the raid and booked with receiving stolen property. The LAPD said the case, quote, underscores the importance of interagency collaboration in combating large-scale cargo theft. The investigation is still ongoing, and the LAPD says they plan to make more arrests.
Those are your drive home updates this evening. To learn more about these stories, go to dailywire.com. And in case you missed it this morning, we covered some major stories, including President Biden's FBI spying on GOP senators, the shocking early prison release of a Kentucky killer, and America's leading evangelical magazine taking major donations from one of the nation's biggest abortion funders. Thanks for tuning in. We'll be back tomorrow morning with another full edition of Morning Wire.